Brought to you by the community of certified B corporations.
All right, Steve, I know you're really looking forward to this.
I am. I'm wondering what you wrote down.
Steve and I had a little chat the other night, and I wouldn't disclose my questions to him in advance. It made him very nervous.
Were you paying attention to the collaborate versus may the strongest win
There you
earlier
go.
today?
There you go. All right, Steve,
Go ahead.
I don't need my notes. So, Steve, 22 years. Amazing. What an incredible commitment to one organization. You must feel incredibly proud of what you have achieved. Let me ask you the look-back question. What's your legacy?
King Arthur's been around for 220 years, so we figured out we were doing higher math in the audience. That's 10% of the time. So I'm just a tiny little piece of it, and yet it's been so fun to be part of growing from 20 employees to 300. It's been so fun to go into the store since I retired and be greeted by now people who don't report to me and still actually smile. So it's real. So it's great, really.
Well, you know, 10% over the arc of a great company that has really stood for something. You know, undoubtedly in those 22 years, you've run into obstacles. My belief, we learn more from failure than we do from success.
Yep.
Think back on some of those failures, those challenges. What are some of the big lessons that you've taken away from your great career?
I think our toughest struggle was when each part of our business got hit economically and financially in '03, I believe it was. And it really felt like employee ownership wasn't just there for the good times, it was actually there for the toughest times. And we had a tool that we used to talk about contingency planning, and we're in stage 1, we're in stage 2, and everybody knows kind of what we do and what we're trying to avoid to get back up on the top of the page. And it was hard. It was the hardest thing that I've ever experienced, and it was for many others. But we really came together as a group to make sure that the company survived and set itself up to thrive for the future. So yeah, in adversity, we can really see what we're made of, and we weren't compromising our values, and we got through it and vowed not to be put in that situation again.
And so you touched on some of the things. What were those touchstones for you that kind of rooted you in the fiercest winds and the highest storms, that really guided you as a decision maker to lead the company through those challenging times?
Well, it depends on what you mean by the word leadership, because for us, it's not just one decision maker. I mean, we were putting out these series of steps, and we said, if we can be successful here, we don't drop down to the next level. So let's work hard to fight the battle here. And then if you had to fall back to another line of defense, this is what we'd have to be doing. Yeah, you cut out the, trips to conferences or something like that, even though it's important. We also learned a little more recently that cutting out community donations is not what we want to do. Right. We've changed our policies to say, no, that goes down near the bottom of the list. We're going to continue to fund even if we're in a tough situation. So.
I'd love to touch on governance a little bit. Those of you who know King Arthur, it's got a very different form of governance, and you've referenced it a little bit. You are an ESOP, employee-owned. Advocate for an ESOP. Why should every B Corp be an ESOP?
Yeah, so I'm not sure every B Corp should be an ESOP. I think every B Corp should look at it and see whether it's worthwhile. I think the amount of engagement and ownership of just getting that financial question out of the way, not just acting like owners, but being true owners. So ESOP is complicated, and you have to make sure that you're willing to get through the complication to enjoy the benefits. And some of my fondest memories of King Arthur events are when we got together once a year and announced the stock price, and we had fun little things like people guessing what it was going to be ahead of time, and the winner got crowned with a real King Arthur crown and stuff. So
Did you bring it with you today?
I didn't bring it with me, and I guess we're a little shy on crowns because there was a crown missing last night as well. But I think we heard earlier about the importance of fun, and fun, we try to fold that into what we do every day.
So keep going. Illustrate some of those elements of fun then, because I think it is such an important part. I mean, to take the work seriously, but not ourselves. And
Yep.
how do you create a thriving corporate culture that embraces the notion of fun?
Well, at one of these events, it was about 45 degrees out and raining, and I incorporated fun by sitting on the dunk tank for what seemed like an interminable amount of time.
That sounds like fun, man.
Yeah, it's like, okay, just hit me the first time and let me get wet, sitting here for a while. And just because I know so many employees are in the audience and they're fact-checking me, I'll have to fess up that I did bring my shorty wetsuit because I was worried we were going to still do the dunk tank, and I knew we were. So raise money for community, have fun, get everybody involved. And I knew more about what was going on when we were 20 people. Yep. At 300, I can't know all of it. And so it's creating a culture of fun because you got to let people go figure out how to do fun and be successful in their own ways.
So let me build on that. 20 to 300. Do you have to lead in a different way when you're leading 20 versus leading 300?
Absolutely. And I think one of our areas we focused on was really the folks who manage big departments and are growing within the company, taking on new leadership roles, giving them the support they need. We all have gone through leadership training that's been specialized for King Arthur, and just working through your best people. And one of the benefits of King Arthur is we just invest so much in the people and checking them out before they come on board, orienting them when they're there. It's the way to make it work.
So invest in people is one of the elements of your secret formula.
Absolutely.
Other
Absolutely.
elements that formula that makes King Arthur and successful?
Again, because I'm thinking of my fact checkers out there, they know that I in our culture is to aim really high. Flour could be viewed by some as a commodity, and then how can you charge more for better flour? And how could we, when we were just a 2% share of the market years ago, say we needed to be at 10% market share because of what we understood was happening in the industry, and the little guys are going to get kicked out. And we ran the projections, and the numbers looked ridiculously huge, this little company. But that's what it said, and we went after it. And we went after it not because we were slaves to a number or a budget, but because we felt to be the kind of baking company that cares about success in the kitchen, we needed to hit those numbers, and we did.
Yeah, fantastic.
So aim high and then surprise yourselves. I think along the way, it still seemed impossible. It was not just the shock at the first time when you put the numbers down. There were times when it really did seem impossible. But those were also the times when the innovation kicked in, not just product innovation, but kind of the go-to-market and other ways to solve the problem. It really brings the best out of each of us to have that stretch.
Terrific, fantastic. We've got a lot of founders in the audience today who are probably thinking about their legacy and their team and how to effectively hand the baton and when to do that. Two questions around that. When did you know and realize it was time for you to pass the baton? And then go there, and then I'll ask the second part.
Yeah, it happened pretty recently. It was this calendar year, and people who've asked me prior to that, I said I could be working there for 20 years or 2 years. It was unclear. And just a variety of things that happened to me personally, as well as feeling like things were as good as they could be from my perspective. Everything was lining up. Yeah. I was coming up on my 15th year as CEO, and all of that just said it's a good time to go at it.
Go out on a high note.
On a high note, right, right.
Always and wanting more.
Well, and create space.
Yeah, yeah. So talk about that space, because what Steve and the King Arthur team has done is really unique from a governance perspective. Instead of handing the baton to another individual, you handed it to a team of 4 leaders. Is that correct?
It is, and it's even less of handing it to. It's we have run the company as this group, was the strategy team. We all figured things out, and I am no longer in that group, and they are prepared to lead through the group as we have before. So people focus on, it's a strange number, I know the co-CEO situation, this sounds odd. Grant that maybe somewhere else it is, but for us it isn't. It's the continuity, and it's the culture, and it's the way we do things. So you could say, well, what happens if you have a tie vote? Or what happens, it's like we don't vote on things. We've learned that if it isn't clear after a little bit of time, it's because a piece of information is missing. And you come back and you pick that up next week, and the history has been, yeah, that's largely it. Now, the team, I would suggest, would have to watch that in the years to come to make sure that it doesn't slow things down, because King Arthur's prided itself on being nimble. But it's a very natural extension that has the blessing of our outside board of directors as the best way to go.
Yeah. Let me shift to your personal life. I mean, you've done something, I think, pretty courageous in your leadership and the transition of the company, and now personally, right? And you're still a young person.
Oh, thank you, John.
You know, well, you are, right? I mean, 40's the new 20, right?
Yeah.
Go there, Steve.
Yeah.
You know, you've taken this moment of pause, of reflection.
Yes.
You know, what are you hoping to get from this time out?
It's really kind of what this event is in terms of inspiration. I'm looking for some refreshing and inspiration. If I was listening to Cat's song, we came around from sky and truth and love. And I was thinking that those are kind of the things that I've been doing while I haven't been thinking about what's next. Sky is to be, like on my second day off, I got on my bike early in the morning and rode up Vermont and across New Hampshire and into part of Maine, 120 miles. I spent the day under the sky. I've tried to spend as much of this summer under the sky as possible. Truth, I've talked my way into a few Dartmouth classes, so I'm reading Goethe in the original and studying St. Anselm, and that's using some parts of my brain that have been dormant for, well, maybe they were always dormant. but getting to some of these really kind of inspiring thoughts. And love is to give myself, because I have the time now, to spend more time with family and friends and to create the opportunity. I love King Arthur. I love all the King Arthur employee owners, and the way I felt it always felt very important to focus there first and emphasize that and be there. And in hindsight, I said no to things that I am now saying yes to.
Awesome. Sky, truth, and love. Isn't that incredible? I want to come with you.
On which one?
All of the above. I'm just a little bit jealous.
How's your German?
Oh, my gosh. Goethe. Here we go. Phenomenal. You've got me thinking. Okay. You're an adventurer. You helicopter ski. You do crazy stuff, right? So we may see this calm, cool, collected guy, but actually you push yourself to the extremes. So help me understand how that helps you to seek your goals, and what does it bring into your life? Yeah.
So this summer has been fabulous also for flying planes that have no engines, gliders. And usually the weather is great when it's a work day and I can't go out. And so my longest flight of my life was 6 hours this summer. And you're just finding air that's going up because you're going down in the air. And I find what it does is totally focus me and shut down monkey brain, thinking of all kinds of other things, and puts me into a landscape and something that's aesthetically pleasing, and also challenges me, again, on another side of the brain, which I was backstage raising my hand when the question about competition came up. I'm pretty competitive. It just allows me to exercise a different set of muscles, if you will. And yeah, and I think that's it.
Incredible, because it calms your monkey brain. For me, my mind would be going nuts hanging up in the sky with no engine. I mean, that's crazy. Aside from crashing your hang glider, what keeps you up at night?
Nothing. I really think I'm. No.
I'm coming with you.
No, I'm a very. I can be very anxious and paranoid. I just don't let it get in the way of my sleep. So I go down and it's like that's it. I'm out. And then I get up and I'm like, oh, geez, you know, there's a million things to worry about and do. And so really, this time of finishing my transition away from a company that I will always love. And before figuring out kind of, is it going to be the things that I've loved forever with the employee-owned companies, with B Corps, or is it going to be some new area that seems like a huge challenge and opportunity that I just feel drawn to? I need to kind of give myself that time before I jump into the next one.
Fabulous. And there will be a next one?
Probably, but don't know.
Shape? What would it look like? What would it feel like? What's undone? What's on your bucket list?
Well, this 3 months has been going really well, so yeah. I've signed up for more of this indefinitely. You know, my grown boys called me up with very little notice and let's go hike Knife's Edge on Katahdin, and I say yes to that, and I say yes to these different things. So there isn't a timeline. I had several people in the audience that I got to chat with about several months ago about this type of decision, and they all counseled me. My favorite phrase was, take longer off than you think you'll be able to stand. And that has totally proven to have been true. It's proof again that as smart as anybody may think we are, it's always great to kind of chat with folks who know you a little bit or maybe not at all or maybe really well and listen to what they have to say. But to answer your question, I think there's going to be some way for me to help foster employee ownership, whether it's in the current ESOP form or other new forms. I'm intrigued by governance and ownership, not just the way we have as options today, but how we might do them better in the future. I can see myself trying to write those thoughts down, not in a book. I don't see myself writing a book, but to write it for myself to then kind of share with the community. Yeah. So I don't have a business plan yet, John.
Well, if there were a call for hands, I'm sure there'd be 1,000 hands that would go up that would love to have your coaching, your mentorship, and the distillation of your wisdom. Closing thought. Share with us kind of what's inspiring you and what you want to leave the audience today in terms of perhaps a challenge or a thought that we ought to be working on together as a community.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you to all the speakers, because I was writing down a bunch of things that I found very inspiring. One of these areas that seems like a huge challenge is health, in the broadest sense, from mental, dental, well, I mean, everything around health, emotional. And even while at King Arthur, been on 3 or 4 boards that are addressing these things, and I'm having to learn all kinds of new models and impacts and patience of both kinds to finally get to a point where maybe there will be some new skills that I develop to help make the community that I live in healthier in the very broadest sense. So whether there's a B angle to that or an ownership governance angle to that, I think health has got to get taken care of in a different way, and it feels like there's a huge opportunity.
Well, Steve, good health to you. Thank you for being an inspiration and for your leadership. It's an honor for me to call you friend. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Voigt.
Thank you.
Be the change.